Yo, man, welcome to Knowing True Ball with your host, Brian Payne. Hey, y'all, we are here. We are in the Super Bowl episode. Hey, man, this is going to be our Super Bowl preview. I'm going to break down the advantages and disadvantages of each team. We're also going to go over how I think each team's path of victory should go. And then also, I'm going to give you my prediction on the game and how I think the game's going to play out. We're also going to go over the NFL awards. That's what we're going to do first. That's going to be our news segment of the day. So, man, let's go ahead and get it started because this episode don't need to be too long because y'all know what time it is. It's all about them boys right there. Them Kansas City Chiefs today. Hey, we're going to move over to the NFL awards. For the NFL awards, man, we're going to start off with the Comeback Player of the Year award. And, man, that went to Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco came. He played in 5 regular season games. Man, the boy threw for 1,616 passing yards. He had 13 tutties and 8 interceptions on the season. This one's been a little controversial over whether he should have got it or not because he ended up winning it over Damar Hamlin. And as you guys know, what happened last season with Damar Hamlin, he took that shot in the chest and sincerely almost lost his life. He still came back and played this season. And a lot of people think that he should have got the Comeback Player of the Year simply just because he came back and played. My personal opinion is this. I think Joe Flacco should have gotten it over Damar Hamlin. I personally probably would have said Baker Mayfield should have been the Comeback Player of the Year. The dude came back this season, had a Pro Bowl caliber season, a legitimate Pro Bowl caliber season in the NFC, playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a team that we did not expect to make the playoffs this year after Tom Brady leaving, but yet they still made it. Mike Evans still had another all-pro year, and Chris Godwin had another good season. That's all led by Baker Mayfield, who was playing behind a terrible offensive line and absolutely no running game. That's who I think should have got it. But to touch on Damar Hamlin real quick, I personally did not want him to get it, simply because of this. I'm not a fan of participation trophies. I think it should go to the guys that earned it. I never played a snap in the NFL. I'm not trying to act like I'm an NFL player or anything of that nature. But I will put myself in Damar Hamlin's shoes. It was a great feat to step on that field again. Those of you that don't know, he did not play that much this year. He may have been even active for only maybe 4 games maybe. I know he touched the field on special teams, but he never played like meaningful snaps on defense this season. Now, let's say like he would have came back and he would have been a legitimate backup safety, active every game, legitimately was rotating into the defensive back scheme. And let's say he wasn't playing as much as he did last year, but he was on the field on a regular. Then I'll be like, yes, give him the Comeback Player of the Year. But the fact that he was not out there on a regular basis, I feel like we're just kind of handing it to him just because he made it back on the field, which is awesome. And if you wanted to do that, let me be clear, I'm not going to argue about it. I just feel like I wouldn't want to be given something instead of a player that may have earned that thing. That's all I'm saying. But then I'm going to Joe Flacco. And the reason why I went to Joe Flacco is because, man, the Cleveland Browns had a terrible season when it came down to injuries. And with that being the case, man, for him to come back off his couch, age I think 38, to come back and lead that team to the playoffs in the AFC North, that's a tough feat. So I'm not going to argue at all that Joe Flacco got it. I probably would have leaned toward Baker Mayfield. But, hey, congratulations, Joe. This probably was your last run. Way to end it on a high note. Moving on now to the Defensive Rookie of the Year. It ended up going to Will Anderson. Will Anderson had 45 tackles, 29 solo, 10 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, and 1 pass deflection. Second place was Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter had a good season as well, but obviously people voted more for Will Anderson. Will Anderson had a really good year this year, especially for a rookie. Actually, if you compare his tackles and solo tackles, they're very similar to a guy like Myles Garrett. Now, he did not have the impact Myles Garrett had. I'm not saying that at all. But for a rookie to even be remotely in the ballpark of a guy of that nature, that's kind of dope, bro. That's really dope. And he has a bright future ahead of him. A lot of you guys were wondering why I was talking about the Texans the way I was. These are the reasons why, and they had a really bright future going. I saw some things there, and I saw some building blocks, and Will Anderson is one of those building blocks, and he had a fantastic season. DeMeco Ryans is deploying him in a way that he could be productive, and he is also producing on those opportunities. So congratulations to Will Anderson. Moving on now to our Offensive Rookie of the Year. We got C.J. Stroud. He ended up passing for 4,108 yards. He ended up throwing 23 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions. He also had 167 yards rushing and an additional 3 rushing touchdowns. Second place was Puka Nacua from the wide receiver from the Los Angeles Rams. I got a little bit of beef with this one, but not much. I love C.J. Stroud, as you guys know. The followers of this podcast knows I've been hyping up C.J. Stroud ever since the day he got drafted, so I'm a big fan of his. I just think that there's something to playing all 17 games. And he didn't. He didn't. And Puka did. Puka did play all 17, and unfortunately C.J. Stroud didn't. And Puka also helped lead a team from a non-playoff record to being the playoff team. Puka was out there without Cooper Kupp for half the year, and then when Cooper Kupp came back, it wasn't like he was Cooper Kupp of the Super Bowl. Puka Nacua was still the number 1 wide receiver on that roster. So I actually think that I probably should have went to Puka simply because that he didn't miss any games. But to shine the light bright on C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud is a tremendous quarterback. He has a very bright future. The Texans, to me, are now the lead dogs in the AFC South. And right now, I think that they're going to have a stranglehold on it for a minute. This is a young core that could grow together and continue to grow together, and they're going to be fantastic together. Look at the wide receiver group. Nobody from that group has to leave. What you may lose, Robert Woods. You'll figure that part out. Dalton Schultz, he signed a 1-year deal. I would bring him back for another year. But even if you don't, you have Brevin Jordan, who stepped in for Dalton Schultz when he was out, and he played fantastic. C.J. Stroud changed that franchise. That franchise also had 2 deadbeat coaches. They hired 2 lame duck coaches, not calling those guys deadbeats, because Lovie Smith, I think, can coach in this league still. But they had 2 lame duck coaches. They had no future at all. You bring in C.J. Stroud, you bring in DeMeco Ryans, you bring in Will Anderson, and so on and so forth, and y'all flip it around like that in the season. When I was talking about them at the beginning of the year, I was talking about their future. I wasn't talking about this season specifically, and these dudes still made us playoffs in their first year and beat the Cleveland Browns in the first round. Tremendous feat by them. Hey, congratulations to C.J. Stroud. He does deserve it. If he would have played all 17 games, I would have no issue with giving it to him whatsoever. The dude balled out. He had a crazy season. Congratulations to my man, C.J. Stroud. Going on now to the Coach of the Year. We got Kevin Stefanski of the Cleveland Browns winning Coach of the Year. Second place was DeMeco Ryans. I don't have an issue with either one that won. I would have gave it to DeMeco, me personally. But also, Kevin, man, he coached his butt off this year. He suffered a lot of injuries to his team this season. He was without Myles Garrett, I think, for a game or 2. He was obviously without Nick Chubb, his leader of his offense. Deshaun Watson never got it going this year, and then eventually you lose him. Then eventually you lose another quarterback, and to the point that you got to go get Joe Flacco off the street to even try to just to try to fill the quarterback. Then on top of that, you lose your left tackle, you lose your right tackle. I want to say they got all the way down to like their 4th-string tackle at one point starting. Like, man, this dude overcame some great odds. He coached his butt off this year. Congratulations to him. I would have went with DeMeco Ryans simply because he turned around an entire franchise that was garbage, and none of us thought that they had a future. Even him taking that job, I was a little hesitant. Now, once they drafted C.J. Stroud and drafted Will Anderson, I was like, oh, sweet, they're giving him some building blocks. He's actually got a chance to succeed here. But for him to turn around once again that fast, and to take guys that was tossed to the wayside, Dalton Schultz tossed to the wayside, Devin Singletary tossed to the wayside. Nico Collins was not seen in this light. Tank Dell was a 3rd-round wide receiver drafted, I believe. I mean, like, he took guys. Noah Brown, nobody cared about him. He took guys and led these men and led this roster, and they had a tremendous season. So I personally would have went that route. And on top of that, they won their division. Now, also, I can't argue with Kevin Stefanski. Once again, you coaching in the AFC North. That's a tough division. I can't complain at all. For you to go 11-6, dealing with the Baltimore Ravens, dealing with the Pittsburgh Steelers, dealing with the Cincinnati Bengals before Joe Burrow got hurt, that's a tough feat. So congratulations, Kevin Stefanski. You do deserve that award. I just would have went with DeMeco. Moving on now to the next award, we're going to go over the DPOY, Defensive Player of the Year. It ended up going to Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett had 42 tackles on the season, 33 solo tackles, 17 tackles for loss, 14 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, 3 pass deflections. He's talking about a hell of a season he had. He had a hell of a year. And specifically that game against the Indianapolis Colts, I will not forget that game. He won that game by himself. Completely by himself. I don't care. He won that game. He was out there looking like a freaking alien against some dudes. In second place, it was TJ Watt. As you guys know, I said in our season finale episode right before the playoffs, I personally think Max Crosby should have got the award if it's going to be an individually based award. But based on his team, and based on how bad his defense was, they wasn't going to give it to him. But instead they gave it to Myles Garrett. So now the question is, did Myles Garrett deserve it over TJ Watt? My only beef, once again, is the amount of games played. I believe Myles Garrett missed at least one game. TJ played all 17. The numbers are very similar. We all know that their impacts are just as important to each other's. So I probably would have went to TJ. TJ missed the playoff games. He did not miss a regular season game, and these are regular season awards. So I personally would have went the route of TJ instead of Myles. But, man, Myles had a fantastic year, and I'm not hating on Myles. I'm not hating on whatever. Whatsoever. Myles balled out, had a great season, had his best season of his NFL career, and he deserved that award. He did. Congratulations to you, Myles Garrett. Keep balling out. Moving on now to Offensive Player of the Year, went to Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey ended up rushing for 1,459 yards, go along with 14 rushing touchdowns. He also caught 67 passes for 564 yards, and he had 7 receiving touchdowns. So, a.k.a. Christian McCaffrey had a 2,000-plus yard season with 20-plus touchdowns. He had a hell of a year. Me personally, if unfortunately the MVP award was not a quarterback award, Christian McCaffrey should have got the MVP this season. Who came in second place was Tyreek Hill. He came in second place. If Tyreek Hill didn't miss any games, I think he would have been really fighting with Christian McCaffrey for that Offensive Player of the Year award. But when you miss games, you miss opportunities. But Christian McCaffrey, man, he had a hell of a season, man. The best running back in football by far. This award is without question. I have no issues with it whatsoever. Congratulations to you, Christian McCaffrey. Just don't do it in the Super Bowl and we'd be good. Moving on now to the final award that we're going to discuss. The MVP, Most Valuable Player, went to Lamar Action Jackson. Lamar Jackson threw for 3,678 passing yards. He had 24 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. He also ran for 821 rushing yards, and he had 5 rushing touchdowns. The numbers are not as gaudy as typical MVP seasons. Look at Patrick Mahomes' MVP years. Look at even Lamar's previous MVP year. I want to say he accounted for 40-plus touchdowns in that season. This year, you're talking about he only accounted for 29. It does. The numbers do kind of matter to a degree, but I'm actually kind of happy that he did get it instead of somebody with the numbers, because it just showcased that it was more than the numbers. There was a lot of times Lamar Jackson is leading these drives and they're just rushing the ball in at the end of the drive, but you got down there because of Lamar, because of Lamar's ability to run the system and run it with fluidity and run it accordingly. He just didn't get the touchdown at the end because they just ran in with Gus Edwards on the 1-yard line. Trust me, I know. I play fantasy football. That was the only thing that Gus Edwards was worth in fantasy football, was he got every 1-yard touchdown for the Ravens this year. If you get those to Lamar just like he did in his previous MVP season, he would end this year with 12, 15 rushing touchdowns, and now those numbers look completely different. But Lamar, man, he played a great regular season. He was on the best team. He led the best team. He led the most potent offense in the NFL. They scored the most points this season in the NFL. Also playing in the AFC North against some tough defenses, against the Cleveland Browns, against the Pittsburgh Steelers, against even the Cincinnati Bengals had a solid defense this season. So, man, for him to go ahead and accomplish those things and play very well, I do think that he did deserve the league MVP if we have to give it to a quarterback. He did deserve that MVP. I could not give it to Josh Allen. The slope at the very beginning of the year was too bad. That was too bad. I'm sorry, the slump at the very beginning of the year was way too bad in order for you to give it to him. We cannot look past that just because he got hot. He got hot at the right time. And, hey, all kudos to Josh Allen on that. But, bro, Lamar did it over a 17-game season. You only did it over maybe the last 8. We cannot give that the same credence. Guys like Patrick Mahomes, he did not have that type of year this year. Jalen Hurts, we all know he definitely didn't. I guess the biggest argument may be for Dak Prescott, actually. But also with these awards come the moments. You have to perform in those moments. And Dak Prescott never had no moments. Those moments that he had to propel himself to win those games against the San Francisco 49ers, against the Detroit, well, he did beat the Detroit Lions, but like it wasn't like he had a crazy game against them. Against the Philadelphia Eagles in Philly. In games like that, he didn't show up the same way that he was showing up in the other games. When Lamar Jackson, when he had to play against the 49ers, he crushed the 49ers. When he played against the Detroit Lions, they crushed the Detroit Lions. When he played against those big-time teams, he went out there, they dominated. And that's why he deserved the league MVP. So, man, that's our wrap on the NFL awards. That's all the awards that we're going over. I don't really care about all those other, I don't know, whatever words you want to call them. Biggest player of the year and all that. We ain't worried about all of that around here. So now let's go ahead and get to the Super Bowl game. Hey, y'all know I'm geek, man. Your boy's trying to go back to back. I'm wearing my Super Bowl shirt from last season's win. And I don't buy the AFC Championship shirts or apparel. I don't buy those. I'm expecting the Super Bowl. So that's what we doing around here. So I can't put on no AFC Championship shirt for you because I ain't rocking that. We rock only bowls. But moving to this game, I'm very excited, bro. We got a rematch of Super Bowl 54 with the Kansas City Chiefs at the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, it's not actually San Francisco. Obviously, it's in Las Vegas. This game should be a really good game. It should be. I actually think this game is fairly balanced, honestly. I really do. And I think this game could almost be 50-50. And I'm not just saying that to say it. The more that I'm looking at these teams and looking at the breakdown of the game and how I think the game will play out, I can see both teams equally winning. It's going to take one team to dominate a position in order for them to win this game. But the first thing I want to talk about is that the Kansas City Chiefs are unfortunately out two very key players this week. And the only reason why I'm going over these two is because I don't really want to go over the guys that's been gone for like the last 6, 7, 8 weeks. I'm talking about more so new injuries that just appeared. And the San Francisco 49ers didn't suffer any of those in the conference during the playoffs at all. The Chiefs are going to be out there all-pro right guard left guard Joe Thuney and Charles Omenihu, our big free agent signing of last season, who actually came over from the San Francisco 49ers. These are big deals. The Chiefs probably have, well, I won't say probably, they do have the best interior offensive line in the NFL. With Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith, I don't think there's a better three in the middle than them. When you lose out on an all-pro like that against a solid defensive line, like going against Hargraves of the 49ers, that's going to be a big deal. So we're going to see how the backup left guard holds up. He held up great last week. Because if he could do that again, we should be all right in that area. As far as Charles Omenihu goes, the reason why that's such a big L for us is because he was the guy that was going to be going against Trent Williams. Not that he was going to do something great against Trent Williams. I don't think so. I'm not trying to dare act like that. I'm not a homer like that. It's just though he would have occupied Trent Williams. Trent Williams would have had to focus on him. Trent Williams can't block him and then do some Trent Williams stuff, just toss his hand out to help out the guard. Against Omenihu, he couldn't do that. Going against Matt Dana, our backup DN, he may be able to do some things like that. I'm hoping that's not the case, obviously, but that's why Charles Omenihu is a big loss. It also shrinks our rotation for our defensive ends and our pass rush, which means that they're not going to be as fresh as they're going out there on the field. But those are the key players that are out this week, and we'll see if the Chiefs can overcome that. Moving on now, we're going to go to the team comparisons. And this is what we're going to do. I'm going to compare position to position, and then at the end of the discussion of each position, I'm going to say who I think have the advantage. And we're going to find out what team has the most advantages in this game. So the first position that we're going to start off with, of course, is going to be the quarterback spot. We're going to start off with Patrick Mahomes versus Brock Purdy. Obviously, bro, we're all going to lean Patrick Mahomes in this scenario. Patrick Mahomes is that dude, bro. He's the best quarterback in football right now. He is on a trajectory to maybe even be the GOAT one day. He definitely is the best quarterback I ever seen. I'm not going to call him the greatest. That's still Tom Brady's honor. But Patrick Mahomes, he's trying to chase that down. Patrick Mahomes is playing great football right now. He's in his element. He's doing his thing. Moving on to Brock Purdy. I want to touch a little bit on the whole game manager thing one more time. Brock Purdy, he showed that he could play last week. For sure. For sure. He showed that he could play last week. Man, when you're down by that many points and you are leading a charge to come back, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. You kept the poise of the team and things of that nature. Now, also, like if we go back to the Super Bowl year, actually against the Kansas City Chiefs, when Jimmy Garoppolo was leading that team, Jimmy Garoppolo was missing those throws at the end of the game. Honestly, that pass to Brandon Ayuk was eerily similar to when Jimmy Garoppolo missed Emmanuel Sanders in the Super Bowl. This one just got tipped in the air and Ayuk was able to finish it. But Brock Purdy played fantastic in that second half of that game. He's just still young. He's still young, so will he make the mistake? If I got to bet on Patrick Mahomes or Brock Purdy to make the mistake, I'm going to bet on Brock Purdy to make the mistake. But Brock Purdy, he is more than a game manager. I have not went over what my quarterback rankings will be. We'll do that at the end of the season, where I'm going to go over like what guys I think is where by the end of the year. But Brock Purdy has shown that he's a really good quarterback in this league, and Patrick Mahomes is going to have to show up to make sure that he can win this game. If not, Brock Purdy will take this game. But I'm leaning obviously towards Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes. They win that position battle by far. It's not even close to me. Moving on to the next position, we got Isaiah Pacheco at the running back spot going against Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, the 49ers take the edge on this, man. We're talking about the guy that should have got the MVP this year, in my personal opinion. Christian McCaffrey had a fantastic year, and he's a fantastic player, by far the best running back in football. But Pacheco, he fits what the Chiefs need him to do. He fits very well. What's going to make him, he could mess around and be just as effective as McCaffrey in this game. Now, we're going to lean towards McCaffrey, absolutely. Just like Patrick Mahomes with Brock Purdy, it's the same thing with McCaffrey versus Pacheco. He is the guy. It's that plain and simple. So the 49ers have that advantage. But Pacheco can really run that ball, and he can't control that clock. As I've been saying, as you guys know, following this podcast with me and following this season with me, he's been the most consistent weapon on the on the Chiefs offense all season. And now the Chiefs have leaning on him during this playoff run, and that's why the Chiefs are having success. But we're going to give the edge to Christian McCaffrey. Moving on now to the receivers. We got Rashee Rice and Deebo Samuel. Actually, bro, I think their effect is actually very similar to each other. I actually think this is a push in terms of their effect on the game. Deebo, he's a highlight reel. But the thing is, Deebo's not the greatest route runner. You can't put him on a very specific route tree or anything of that nature. You have to let Deebo just kind of get the ball in his hands and play. And Rashee Rice is a lot of like that. He's a better route runner than Deebo. Deebo is a better athlete than Rashee. But they both make plays. And I think they both make tough catches, tough, strong catches when it's time. Third downs, they've got strong hands. They go pick that ball out the air and get that first down. They will run over a body to get that first down and things of that nature, and they have a nose for the end zone. So I actually think this is going to be a push. Well, I think the 49ers start getting the edge is when we get to the next wide receivers. And Brandon Ayuk against MVS, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, or honestly any other Chief wide receiver. Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, Jalen Watson, anybody that you want to bring up for the Chiefs. It's not close. It's not close. It's easily Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk is the best route runner on the field when it comes down to the wide receiver position of both teams. Brandon Ayuk has the ability to be a Pro Bowl wide receiver, I personally believe. He's stuck in a situation a lot like T. Higgins is for the Cincinnati Bengals, where he has a special talent in Deebo Samuel there that's going to garner so much attention that you don't really notice what all Ayuk is really doing. Do you guys realize that Ayuk had almost 1,400 yards for the season? Like, bro, he had a really good year, a very good season. So, man, Brandon Ayuk is what tips the scales for the receiving core. Now, moving on to the tight end position, we have an all-world, all-classic tight end battle going on right here. We got Travis Kelce against George Kittle. George Kittle has been the better tight end this season, but Travis Kelce has been the better tight end in the playoffs. I think it's a push. But if you're forcing me to take an advantage, I'm actually going to give the advantage to George Kittle. And the reason why is because of the running game. George Kittle is legitimately effective in their run game. He might be one of their best. He might be, if not, is their best blocker in the run game on their offense. Travis Kelce gets taken out on run plays. If you really pay attention, if he comes out the game, that's almost a guaranteed run play. Now, because of Noah Gray ascending in the Chiefs offense at the tight end spot, Noah Gray is actually probably out there more than Travis Kelce is. But because he's ascending, the Chiefs will now run pass routes with Noah Gray to throw the defense off here and there. But more times than not, 75% of the time, if you see Noah Gray out there, number 83, and no number 87 out there, that's a run play. And because of that, I got to give the edge to George Kittle. Now when we get to the offensive line, both teams have major holes on the offensive line. The Chiefs' major holes are the tackles. They're garbage. They just been awful. Taylor's been awful at the right tackle. He's been probably maybe the worst right tackle in the NFL this season, which hurts because we paid him. And then you got Donovan Smith, who's just getting older, so he's just not as effective as he once was in Tampa Bay. But our tackles are terrible. They're terrible, but our interior is good. Now, when you're losing Joe Thuney, you're putting in a backup left guard. Of course, it's going to change the dynamics a little bit, but going off what we saw against the Ravens, he still held up strong. The Chiefs still did good in the interior. So I actually give the Chiefs the edge on the interior of the offensive line. But for the 49ers, I would give them the edge on the left side of the offensive line. Their issue is that the right side is not a good group at all. That right tackle and that right guard do not work well over there at all. And that's going to be a major flaw in this game. So this offensive line battle, I actually going to give it a push. But both teams have major holes in these offensive lines. Moving on now to the defensive lines. We got Matt Dana against Chase Young. Based on talent, this ain't even close. It's easily Chase Young that's better than Matt Dana. A lot of y'all don't know who Matt Dana is. He's our backup defensive end. And honestly, you have no reason to know who he is because Charles Omenihu is supposed to be in that spot. But with the way that Matt Dana's played this year, in the spots that he's played, I mean, you're saying as a backup, he's had almost 7 sacks this season. He's been playing a very productive game. Very productive. He just is not as great in the running game, but Chase Young is terrible in the running game right now. He is awful in the running game. And actually, I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons why their Russian defense, talking about the 49ers, is not as effective as a lot of people think that it should be. But with that being the case, I'm going to give it a push because the production probably leads on Matt Dana, but the talent leads on Chase Young. So if you could get just a little bit more of that bravado and talent out of Chase Young to show itself in the Super Bowl game, he may be actually better than Matt Dana as he should be in this game. Then we got Nick Bosa against George Karlaftis. George Karlaftis is a really good player for the Chiefs. A really good defensive end for the Chiefs. And him and Chris Jones play fantastic off of each other on that left side of the defensive line. The issue is that Nick Bosa is Nick Bosa. So, yes, you're going to lean Nick Bosa, but it's a quality battle. It's a quality battle for sure. But Nick Bosa is the better defensive end, so that edge goes to the San Francisco 49ers. And then when you get to the interior, we really only going to talk about 2 guys because, both teams run what's called a 4-3 defense. So that second defensive tackle is normally just a rush tackle. He's just there to kind of clog the lanes. But the premier defensive tackles are there to make sacks and clog lanes and stop runs and things of that nature. Think of the Aaron Donalds, the Chris Jones, and so on and so forth. We got Chris Jones going against Hargraves. Hargraves, he had a great year last year for the Philadelphia Eagles. This year, he's been solid. Not great, not bad, but solid. The edge goes to Chris Jones. Obviously, Chris Jones is an all-pro defensive tackle in this league. He's going to get a nice payday this offseason. Hopefully, he stays in Kansas City. That's going to be the hope. But Hargraves can have a good game in this game, depending on what side of the field they line him up on. If they put him over the backup left guard, as they probably are going to test out what he got, they're not going to put him over Trey Smith. They're going to put him over him to test out what that backup got. He could mess around and dominate this game. If he could dominate the run game and stop the Chiefs' run game, it's going to be a long day for Kansas City. It will be a long day for Kansas City. But in this situation, the edge goes to Chris Jones. So when we boil down the defensive line, I actually think it's a push. Going to the backers. Now, this one is tighter than people think, but it does lean to the 49ers. You got Nick Bolton going against Fred Warner. Fred Warner is the best linebacker in the league, but Nick Bolton could do so much that Fred Warner could do. I would say the only real difference between the two right now is their IQ on the field. But as far as talent, Nick Bolton, he's just as good as Fred Warner. He could cover tight ends. He could cover some slot corners. You can have him out there on pass downs. He's a great run stopper. I mean, Nick Bolton is a dude. He is a dude. But Fred Warner is that dude. So the edge goes to Fred Warner. William Gay will be back this week for the Kansas City Chiefs. But also, I'm even fine with Tranquil still being in there. He's playing fantastic football. But William Gay is a more talented guy. He's more athletic. He's just more naturally gifted than Tranquil. But Greenlaw and William Gay, they kind of cancel each other out. I love Greenlaw. Greenlaw is not afraid to hit anything that moves. I'm a big fan of Greenlaw. So with that being the case, I actually am going to give the edge to the San Francisco 49ers, but it's not that big of a gap. This is where I think an edge can kind of take place in this game, and this is secondary. We got L'Jarius Sneed as the best DB for the Kansas City Chiefs going against Tre'Davious Ward. Ward actually used to be a Kansas City Chief, so I know a decent bit about him. He's a good press corner. He's a very aggressive corner, but he's liable to get beat. And he will get beat far more often than Sneed gets beat. So that edge goes to Sneed easily. Then you got Trent McDuffie, who had an all-pro caliber season going against Lenoir. It's not a comparison. Then you got Joshua Williams, who is a long, lengthy corner, going against Isaiah Oliver, who's bounced around from team to team. I mean, credit to him for still being a credible player in the league, being on rosters and things of that nature. But like, it's not like he's like a stand-alone guy. Like, he is just a rotation DB. So the Chiefs are dominating the DB spot. And then when you get to the safeties, you're talking about Reed going against a rookie and Brown at the strong safety position. I like Brown. He's having a good season. But at the end of the day, he's a rookie compared to a Pro Bowl caliber guy in Reed. And then when you got Mike Edwards, who has now come in for Brian Cook, going against Tashawn Gibson. I actually probably lean Gibson, but I think that they're very equal. So I'll probably say it's a push. But I think that is very equal. So for this game, it's probably a push actually on who has the better personnel. But I probably will lean towards the 49ers a little bit. I think they have a little bit more weaponry than what the Kansas City Chiefs have. The Chiefs just have the best player on the field in Patrick Mahomes. But the advantage probably goes to the Niners. This is where the Chiefs get their advantage though. The coaching. Andy Reid has proven to be a better coach than Mike Shanahan already. We all know that. And then when they play head up against each other, Andy Reid coached a better game than than Shanahan. We all know that. So Reid gets the edge in this game. That's where the Kansas City Chiefs' advantage truly takes place. Now, what is the Kansas City Chiefs' path to victory? A lot of people are going to look at Patrick Mahomes. Of course, he is a path to victory. Like, without him doing what he's supposed to do, it's not going to work. But the real key is the Chiefs running the football against the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers' rushing defense is not as good as people think, as we discussed last episode before the 2 episodes ago before the Detroit Lions football game. If the Chiefs can get a quality running game going, that now allows Travis Kelce to get one-on-one against Greenlaw, because you have to use Greenlaw in that. You cannot put Fred Warner on Travis Kelce. So that's where the edge is going to be gained, because now when you're doing a play action with Isaiah Pacheco and Fred is being forced to flow with him, that opens up the 3-level passing game that the Chiefs love to attack with. When I say 3 levels, this is what it means. There's normally a crosser, a like a 7 to 10 yard crosser, and a deep route crosser. Or you can have a 3-level route on one side of the field, which the Chiefs love to do. Meaning, like, you have a little dump-off guy, then you have a guy run a short fade, then a guy running a deep fade. And Patrick Mahomes is going to pick one of them 3 guys. The reason why the Chiefs love to do that is because Travis Kelce is great in man-to-man coverage, getting separation. So he could get that separation right there in the middle. Got it. And then on top of that, when you run a zone, that forces that corner that's sitting in that spot. He either has to come down to take this guy, or he has to back up to take Kelce, which now means that this guy is open for about 5, 6, 7 yard gain. That's why we've been seeing Patrick Mahomes do a lot more check downs, because they're backing up for Kelce. And now that leaves Pacheco, that leaves Carlos Edwards-Helaire wide open in the flat, and that's when they're getting their yards. but it's all based off of the running game. If the running game is not working, that means they could just rush 4 every single time. And that's not what you want if you're the Chiefs. You want man-to-man coverage back there. That's what happened against the Baltimore Ravens last week. That's what happened against the Buffalo Bills. That's what also happened against the Miami Dolphins. They were forced to run man-to-man coverage, and when they ran man-to-man coverage and Rashee Rice taking the step that he's taking, you couldn't do nothing about it. That last play of the game when Patrick Mahomes throws that pass to Marquez Valdes-Scantling, that was a play-action pass. Man-to-man coverage because the Ravens blitzed, and they paid for it. This is what I mean. This is going to be the route to victory, and the only way that you get there is by running the ball effectively. Defensively, I think the Chiefs should go with a heavy dose of blitzing in the first half and see how Brock Purdy responds. Put that pressure on Brock Purdy, because what you should do with that pressure, you put Chris Jones on the right side of the offensive line. You keep him away from Trent Williams. Then you also keep George Karlaftis away from Trent Williams. You put both of these dudes on the same side. Now, you blitz the weak side backer, I believe. You blitz him because just in case they try to run to the left, Trent's going to get that push because you're not putting Chris Jones over there. When they run to the left, you want that overflow with defenders. So then they can't go that way. You want too many men that they could block. So that's what I think should happen. Now, what the San Francisco 49ers are going to do to try to combat this, they're going to try to do a lot of their 21 personnel, which means that they're going to be putting 2 wide receivers and George Kittle on the field. But they're going to put them all on like one side. And you're going to force the Chiefs to have to make a decision. Now, as a guy that's watched the Chiefs all season, I'm more than fine with Trent McDuffie or L'Jarius Sneed being on the inside. More than fine with it. The reason why is because those guys are not soft. They are aggressive corners. They are not afraid to hit. So that's what I would do. I would put L'Jarius Sneed on Deebo Samuel. We've seen him go against the A.J. Browns of the world and big receivers like that. He shuts them down. Put him on Deebo. Slow Deebo up. Put Trent McDuffie on Brandon Ayuk, and we're going to live that fight. I'm even cool with Joshua Williams being on Brandon Ayuk because Joshua Williams is like a 6'2 corner. He is very long, and he has ball skills. So I'm even fine with putting him on there, and you let Trent McDuffie still flow in the middle of the field. You bring Eric Reid down because you're going to force Brock Purdy to make plays. Bring Eric Reid down because he is not afraid to help in the run game. That's what I would do. I think that's the Chiefs' path to victory. Because then what's going to happen, you're going to first force Brock Purdy to try to make downfield throws. He can make them. He can make them. But you got to take something away. And I'm betting on taking away Christian McCaffrey. That's what I'm betting on. And I'm betting on my DBs who are tremendous in man coverage, as we have seen so far in this postseason and all regular season long. That Deebo's never going to be open. Ayuk's never going to be open. We just got to worry about George Kittle. If George Kittle has a monster game, the Chiefs are in trouble. They are in trouble. That cannot happen. For the San Francisco 49ers path to victory, they also have to run the ball. Your best player on your offense is Christian McCaffrey. Your best blockers on your team is your left tackle and your tight end. You can run a lot of stretch plays to the outside. That gets you away from Chris Jones, and now Christian McCaffrey could work out there against the Trent McDuffies, against the Eric Reids, against the L'Jarius Sneeds, and all those guys of the world. That's what I would do and focus on. Because now when you do that, now you could get to the play-action boot game that Shanahan loves to run. Now you get Brock Purdy on the move. You get him in clean space. Now he can make all the throws. So with that being the case, that's what they need to focus on. How should they get to that? Like I said, you should get to that by running the stretch zone plays. Stretch runs, deep zone run option plays, things of that nature. You have a great fullback in Kyle Juszczyk. Use him. Use that guy. That's what they should do. Because now when you get them hands on the Chiefs rushing defense is not as good since Noddy got injured. He's out for the season. So go ahead and run the ball down the Chiefs' throat. That's your best option. That's your best option. The only way the Chiefs could counteract that is by blitzing. That's the only way that they could try to counteract it. But when you do that, now you become more susceptible for play actions, deep bombs, things of that nature. So if I was the 49ers, I'm going to focus on running the football, getting the ball to Christian McCaffrey, and also even utilizing the screen game with Deebo Samuel. That's like an extension of the run. Same thing for the Chiefs, by the way. Utilize the screen game with Rashee Rice. Then as far as the San Francisco defense goes, it's simple. Dominate the tackles. If Nick Bosa and Chase Young could dominate Donovan Smith and Jawan Taylor, the Chiefs have no shot. They have no shot in this game. Unless Patrick Mahomes goes on some, number 15 miracle worker stuff, they have no shot. Because those two tackles have been a problem. And once you get Taylor nervous, the right tackle for the Chiefs, he will start making mental mistakes as well. He will start false starting. He will start lining up too deep. He'll start holding. And he's going against Nick Bosa. That's what I think the pressure should come from. So if I was the 49ers, I'm going to be sending blitz packages on the right side of the Chiefs offensive line. Just one extra guy to force Jawan Taylor to have to go one-on-one against Nick Bosa. And Nick Bosa, you better win that battle. You held out. You got paid. This is what you get paid for. Big-time players make big-time plays, and this is what you're supposed to do on the field. Now, as far as the secondary goes, you cannot let the Chiefs find a passing rhythm. Find rhythm in their passing game. If the Chiefs find rhythm in the passing game, the 49ers have no shot. No shot at all. Because if they find a rhythm in the passing game, that means that the defensive line is not getting to Patrick Mahomes. And therefore, Patrick Mahomes is able to pick you apart, which now means that you got to drop your defense back. You are already not a good rushing defense. So now if you're forced to drop your defense back, that forces the Chiefs now to be able to easily run the ball with Pacheco right down the middle. Right down the middle, and there's nothing you could do about it. So you got to take something away. That's the key of this game for both teams. Take something away. If I was the 49ers, I'm taking away the Chiefs' run game to force Taylor and Smith, the tackles, to be put in positions that they have to hold up. If I'm the Kansas City Chiefs, I am taking away Christian McCaffrey, and now you, Shanahan, you have to beat me with your left hand and Brock Purdy. You have to beat me with him. That's what this Super Bowl is going to be about. You can't take away everything. Both teams are too good for that. You have to choose something that you're going to take away. So what is my prediction for this game? I'm predicting that the Chiefs are going to come out hot just like they did against the Baltimore Ravens. That's what I'm predicting. I'm predicting that the lights are going to be a little too bright for Brock Purdy to start off in that first quarter. I'm predicting, way too much energy, way too much excitement, a couple bad throws, forces a 3-and-out just because you made mental mistakes, just like Lamar did 2 weeks ago, messing up the RPO, the wide receiver dropping the pass, things of that nature, like simple things, which now allows the Chiefs to get up on a touchdown. The Chiefs had 2 weeks to come up with this game plan. They are going to score in that first drive of the game more times than not. So with that being the case, if they get 7 points in that first drive, that's going to put San Francisco in the sticky spot, just like the Ravens. So I'm got the Chiefs going up maybe like about 10 points in the first half. Then I expect the game to kind of balance out. Now, because the Chiefs are going to get off to that hot start, that's going to take the 49ers out of their natural game plan, which is to run the ball. They're going to have to start throwing the ball at some point in the game, because what we're going to see is Patrick Mahomes going to his ultra game managing mode, which he's the best game manager in football, as he showed last week and the week before. When he has to kill clock and just put points on the board, he will do it in a heartbeat, and it doesn't matter to him. So I got the Chiefs getting a lot of field goals in this game. Got them getting maybe a couple touchdowns, but it's going to be a lot of field goals in this game that I got the Chiefs getting. So the final score I got going on, I got the Chiefs winning this game. I got them winning 26-20. Therefore, I'm talking about like the Chiefs are going to get like 3 or 4 field goals in this game and only like a couple touchdowns. I'm giving the 49ers a couple touchdowns and a couple field goals as well. I think that early, slow start for the 49ers is going to be what do them in this game. But, bro, that's my prediction of the game. I'm going with my boys, the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm always going to ride with number 15. This is that plain and simple for me. But I think the 49ers have a great chance of winning this game. I think it's going to be a hell of a football game, a great football game. I'm so excited and can't wait to watch it. Nobody hit my line. I ain't talking to you. It's game day. Hey, this is Knowing True Ball with your host, Brian Pay. Super Bowl episode. Peace.